Hello and welcome back to the Globe series. Okay, so this is my friend Sterlie, and we are just going to talk today about what globes mean to us. I know you guys are following me on this journey, and the thing is, like, globe means a lot of different things to different people, and for me, not to say that mine is like a super unique version of that, but I think when we first think of globe, it's all like in the physical realm of stuff.
That's true.
But yeah, so we're just gonna go and talk about what it really means to us personally, because I know, Sterling, you want to go on your own kind of globe journey, but it's all so individual. So, like, tell me, what does globe mean to you?
First, I'm gonna just shout you out because I even told you this when you started your globe series or your globe diaries on your channel. I thought like it was very inspiring, and I was like, low-key, I need to be doing the same thing, like focusing on myself and focusing on bettering, you know, the person I want to become and the person I am. So yeah.
Sure.
The question was, what does it mean to me?
Yeah.
It just means being confident in my own skin and stepping into a room and owning all of myself. So kind of just, I hear this a lot for women in their mid-30s or just in their 30s in general, that they finally hit a stride of, I'm like liking who I'm becoming. I know things about myself, and that always inspired me because being in your 20s right now is like lost out at sea.
Right. It's like I got one oar and it was bitten by a shark.
I mean, I'm on a log for my life. It's just kind of rough, and you do feel like you wander a lot, and you don't know your sense of self yet. So yeah, I think glowing up would just mean I know who I am and I like her. You know?
So it's more internal. So
Definitely.
It starts in a more internal place.
I would say it does.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you could do all the extra stuff, like, you know, externally all you want, and then it just kind of never hits home. So that part wouldn't be very cool.
Yeah, and I think so for me as well, like just kind of coming from a place of like, I mean, we all go through ups and downs in life or whatever, but coming from a really low place.
Yeah.
And then just feeling lost and being like, what is it that I do? What do I want? Like, that's kind of where I started from. I mean, granted, I was in a better place when I started like this globe series.
Yeah.
It was more of me striving to just be better in general, but like a better version of myself, not in comparison to anybody else.
Which is super important, I think.
Yeah. And because I've tried, like, I think we've all tried, especially in our 20s, like,
Absolutely.
and even in our teens, like, we see this person doing this and we want to try it, not because we're interested in it per se, but I think a lot of times it comes from a place of insecurity of like,
I think so.
Oh, I admire this person, so that means I'm lesser than now, so I need to copy paste what they're doing
because it seems to work for them.
Right.
Yeah.
And so for me, like how you said, you want to have confidence when you walk in a room. You just want to feel like you are the truest version of yourself in that season. Like, I definitely feel the same way, and even for me right now, it feels more exploratory right now. Like, you guys have seen me, like, yeah, I tried to exercise, I tried to learn Korean, and what was the other thing I tried to reading?
More.
Yeah. What's the thing I should be doing? You know, those kind of things are just the stepping stones. But even in the midst of this in daily life, like talking to friends and like watching other people's videos, like I'm like, oh, I want to try that, but out of genuine interest, not because I'm trying to be like them, not because I think what I'm doing now isn't working per se, or like it's not good enough, but it's more of like, oh my gosh, I can still explore life. You know?
Yeah. You don't have to be limited in what you can like. That's something I think we've talked about before, just in general, that you're always expanding and growing as a human being.
Right.
So yes, don't copy paste because someone else is doing something you have a zero interest in,
Right.
but you could be curious.
Yeah.
Like, oh wow, what is this like crocheting thing?
Yes.
Or, you know, what is like bar, which is
Like
an exercise class. Yeah, an exercise class. And genuinely it might click for you. I mean, yeah, I think what you're saying about just having general interest is so important, and I think that's awesome because it exudes when you're doing something that you're interested in.
For sure. And then, like, given the trying something new thing, there's some things that we want to try something new. It's definitely out of our comfort zone. Yeah. Like, for example, me with exercise. So she, exercise guru. Like, she
to work out.
She loves working out just genuinely for the mental health part of it. You love moving your body.
Yeah.
Me, I wanted that, right? So I was like, oh gosh, I want to move my body and just feel good and not exercise for necessarily a specific, like, aesthetic outcome or anything like that. I definitely want to feel stronger. And I think when you physically feel stronger, mentally, like, you also feel stronger and more energized as well.
Right.
But getting myself to work out,
hardest thing in the beginning.
that was so hard. And I just started off with, first of all, I made it as accessible to myself as possible. So since I'm not a workout person generally, like I've been starting to follow a plan, and it took the guesswork out of that. So that was helpful. But then also adding in something that I would genuinely look forward to, because for me, exercise equals sweating and having to like take an extra shower and like all this stuff, which for me, I'm like, that's so tedious, right? However, it's not that I dislike working out in the moment, right? It's just like thinking about all the after like snowball effect that happens, right?
Yeah.
But it's like the immediate kind of, like not frustration, but inconvenience maybe? The immediate inconvenience is like what I was fixating on versus, oh, when I'm doing it, I can have a lot of fun. Like I've mentioned before, like I love music videos in general, and I made a music video playlist just for when I work out.
Which is brilliant. Because you get to do two of the things, well, I was going to say two of the things that you enjoy, but something that you enjoy, and then you kind of, honestly, you start to relate it to working out.
Right. No, I'm not even going to lie. It's so true. Because then there are moments where I'm like, oh, I want to listen to this like particular group. But then most of their songs are my workout songs, and I'm like, I feel weird listening to it without working out now. But what was cool is like, as I started working out and going there just for like the music videos, and the music and stuff like that, eventually I started noticing myself getting stronger, and then that motivated me in a different way to make me enjoy coming to that moment in time of like specifically working out.
Yeah.
So like there are things that, you know, when we grow up, even if it's internal, there are external actions that we have to do to try to meet that, but it's not always like super exciting, or if that makes any sense, or like even so
the day-to-day, right?
Yeah.
The day-to-day, yeah.
Yeah.
Because what it is most people see the aftermath of the glow up, and they, you know, have a ton of questions about, wow, how did you do it? What was your diet plan? What was your exercise routine? What makeup do you wear?
Yes,
you know,
we're always curious.
We are, because it almost feels like there's an easy way or a shortcut. But everybody who's ever, I think I followed or you followed, whoever has glowed up and, you know, have become almost like the better version of themselves, they almost always have to do the work behind the scenes. And you're awesome in doing it right now and documenting it, but it's almost like there's a lot of work behind that you gotta put, that doesn't always look glamorous. And it doesn't always go fast.
Right. Oh my gosh. If it could be a microwave version instead of a crock pot version, I'd be so happy. However, that's not always the case.
No.
And it also depends on what you're trying to change as well. Like, of course, there is like more varied completion times.
I think so.
Yeah, depending on like where you're starting off at too.
Yes. Your resources. Yes.
Yeah, all that stuff, and like your support, like who is supporting you. If it's like just kind of you, because sometimes it is. Sometimes it's just you motivating yourself, and then eventually like you might have a friend that will come along and like motivate you and stuff like that, or just encourage you along the way.
Absolutely.
And
then you both could do it together.
Exactly. And then that adds almost like a refresh, restart kind of situation to the consistency that needs to happen, which you kind of mentioned.
Point.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of people. It's like mine for sure.
Yeah.
Like I showed Sterlie yesterday such a funny, like, I don't know if it was specifically made for TikTok or if it was an Instagram reel or whatever. But it was so funny because it was along the lines of saying, oh, my parents didn't raise a quitter, but they did raise a procrastinator. And then
I have a lot of things to do, and I'm not
going to do it. Like that, it was like, hit home a little too close to home, you know? So that just goes to show, like, even if it's a little bit at a time, just making those changes helps. And you can expand it, like, eventually. Because maybe emotionally you now have the capacity to do that, but you still have to show up every day.
You do.
You know, or every week. Like, for me, like, this series, like, just putting out a video every week, like, that is not always comfortable because I'm scrambling. Like, last week. Scrambling.
Really?
Oh, yeah. And I didn't even technically put it out on the Thursday that I wanted to, like, in a time zone, unless we're talking about California, then I was well within my amount of time, but I technically uploaded it it finished around midnight instead of the 11-ish hour that I was hoping to get there, just because of technical difficulties and stuff. But instead of just throwing in the towel, be like, oh, you know, I'll just upload it later on in the week, whatever, whenever that would be. I was like, no, I'm just going to stick it out. I'm going to finish it. And when it's done, I'll just be done with it, you know? So
that's really good. And I think something that you said about the consistency brings up something in my mind that I want to ask you. I think most self-help books, whatever, you know, gurus, etc., they'll tell you to like have a vision, and that's how you keep going. I want to hear, what is your vision of the glowed up Phoebe?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. So
what, I guess, like, what does she, not even necessarily what does she look like, but one, how does she feel, and two, like, what's the impression of someone else as she walks into a room?
Oh gosh. Okay. So
2 parts.
I feel like the second part is harder for me to answer because I've always been bad at gauging how people see me. Always.
Aren't we all?
I think so. I think so. Either we skew it way one way or the other, for good or for bad. And I mean, maybe that's not true, but like for me anyway, like
I think for me as well.
I don't really think about it, or I know that I don't have an accurate like pulse on what that is.
Yeah.
Because even after we met, like you were talking to me and you're like, oh, this is my first impression of you. And I was like, what? I was like, huh? This is crazy. So for me, I guess like the person that I want to glow up to be, like if I feel like, oh, I've made it, like I'm finally here, is a woman who's truly, like, kind of like what you said about yourself, like truly confident in myself. Like I feel physically and mentally stronger than I ever have before, because I have gone through a lot of highs and lows. And just being able to show up for myself every day and make that decision to do that, because I feel like for me, I have put myself unintentionally on the back burner, I think, because either I worry about what other people were thinking of me. I was over accommodating to people who never wanted or needed that accommodation to begin with. And then also to trusting that I am capable of so much more than I originally believed, because I think we all hold ourselves back a lot. And I want to be able to get that, I guess, thought process time of doubting myself as low as possible and spring back into something and be like, okay, so maybe it might not be the easiest thing that I've ever done. Maybe it's completely new, or maybe I'm going back to something that I failed at before. But I can learn something and I can grow and I can move forward and I can apply it to other things in my life. Like I would love to be at a place where I just feel like, the word that comes to my mind is springy. Like just bouncy and energetic and stuff, because I feel that like in my soul a little bit, even though I'm a very laid back person, but have that kind of zest, you know,
to exude that energy.
Right.
I think even when you say springy, I can think of the aura of the person being that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, like
a springy person versus a boring person. I just get 2 different images.
Right. Or like, I don't even know if boring is the right word, but just kind of like that low energy, lackluster, like
I could just
like jellyfishing through life, you know?
So
versus like actually having like some energy, some propelling you, you know, and just being interested in new things. And that's one thing I very much admire about like people, and one person in particular, like my dad, like he has always been up to try new things. He has a very youthful spirit, and I'm like, oh gosh, I really want to be able to do that, because I feel like me and my dad are similar in that way. But having that being a model to me in a way has helped. And then seeing other people like that, knowing that he's not a unique case and I won't be a unique case in the best kind of way.
I love that. I love that. So that's a piece of how would she be. And what about what's the perspective or the impression, I guess in a general sense, because, you know, everybody will have something different, but what is the general sense of more or less the reputation that she would have? The glowed up you. The glowed up me. I feel like, sorry, I need to readjust myself. Probably similar. Somebody zestful.
I feel like someone, I would love for people to feel like a warmth, I guess.
That's good.
And something like they feel like they want to talk to me, but, and they're okay, they feel like it's okay to. Does that make sense? Like, because we all have the people in the room that are like, oh, they seem interesting, but then they have that vibe where you're like, I probably shouldn't approach them. I don't want
sense or that wall.
And I want to feel confident, but I want people to also feel confident in like approaching me. And
love that.
Like, also for me too, like just being able to go up to people in the room, because weirdly enough, as I'm technically extroverted, believe it or not, this one is introverted. But I know I have a tendency to be shyer. Like, I won't disregard someone who walks up to me, but I won't necessarily walk up to other people. This one, she walks straight up to people.
I definitely will. But I'd rather my alone time.
Right. If that makes sense. Yeah, you need your moment.
It's about energy, right?
Yeah,
That's
it
what
is.
The introversion, extroversion.
Yeah, the energy expenditure and like how we interpret ourselves and stuff like that.
Yes.
So for me, I definitely get energized with people
and socializing. And yes, you do. Yeah, you light up.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I think, and maybe it comes with that confidence thing of being kind of shy of like, oh my gosh, I don't want to inconvenience this person if I walk up to them and stuff like that. Yeah. But then I'm like, I never feel that way when people do that to me. So I'm like, well, why do I continue to perpetuate that? Like, oh, but you're the exception in that situation. Yeah. So yeah, I just want people to feel comfortable and like, oh hey, I can talk to her, or I can share this like really fun random thing and she could appreciate it. You know what I mean?
You're very approachable, you're very relatable. That's the person she is.
Yeah, that's like the vision of myself.
You're very warm. And to be honest, you're not far from that right now. And okay, I'm a little biased. A little. But no, truly, I think even from my first impression of you, which we've talked about before, I felt those things. I felt those things that you were, I could tell you were bubbly, and I could tell you were extroverted, but I also could tell it wasn't a front. You were generally warm and inviting as a person. So yeah, and definitely with confidence and more confidence that we are starting with, it's going to get just more authentic, if that makes sense. Like, we're just kind of filling more into ourselves.
Right.
I think those are the people I really truly gravitate towards, are the people who are just 100% them. And they're not apologetic about it. They're just like, you know, they're not mean or rude, just, no, this is me. Yeah.
And in a way, I think that gives other people permission to be themselves fully as well.
I agree.
You know, because you're like, oh my gosh, like, look, they're living their best life, and they genuinely, like, not to say that they don't have bad moments, obviously, or, like, down moments.
Yeah.
But a majority of the time, like, they have this fulfillment that is like, wow, how did they get there? And you realize it's just from them completely being who they are.
Yes.
And like you said, not being apologetic about it.
Yeah.
Because, like,
all the way in.
Yeah.
They're all the way in.
So now I'm going to flip that back to you, you know. So, like, who do you picture yourself being? And then also, how is it that you want to be perceived? Or how do you think you would be perceived once you...
I am her.
Yeah, once you're her.
Yeah.
I see more. We did it. Yay. I don't know that song.
Isn't it Dora the Explorer?
That height?
No, maybe not that high. Yeah. Like, we did it. We did it. We did it. Yay. I'm pretty sure. I gotta find that now. I'll find it. I'm pretty sure. Maybe not that high.
Nothing keeps me melancholy. Spread my wings, so damn ready to soar. And there couldn't be a better taste after everything I faced.